This is the Louie T Network.
In the lab room. In the lab.
See, first come the preseason, and I don't take a day off. And then my team was 6-10, and we ain't smell a playoffs. Yeah, I seen the Super Bowl, but I heard they display balls. A lot of teams had injuries. Sam Bradford had to take off. Go hard in the offseason, but you don't know the half. Before you know, we gon' look up, and we ready for the draft. They dressed up in that suit tie, and I don't know how to act. They waiting, so patient, so they can put on that hat. Who else could it be? But your man Luke. Okay, so when she asks you where you was at, you tell her you in the lab room. Who else could it be? Who? But your man Luke. Okay, so when she asks where you was at, you can tell her you was in the lab room. Yeah.
In the lab room.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to another installment of the In the Lab Room podcast. Of course, I am your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. So, we're back again. And what did we learn last podcast? Don't drink pineapple and vodka in large doses and amounts. We learned that Laquan Treadwell not going to run at the 2016 NFL Combine. And we also learned not to believe a lot of what you hear this time of the year. So, I've got more lessons for you today. I've got more draft talk for you today. Got another 7-on-7 drill to complete. So let's jump into the festivities today. Of course, as always, gonna start by dropping a gem on your melon. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man Louie T double E. Some more draft rumor mill. And this one isn't really a rumor. This is a fact. Corey Coleman, one of the top prospects in this draft class at the wide receiver position, out of Baylor, not going to run at the combine. He has a sports hernia. So that is a revelation that we just discovered here in the last 24 hours or so. That's pretty disappointing because we know he's probably one of the most explosive athletes at the wide receiver position in this draft. Was really looking forward to seeing him display that at the combine. Really looking forward to him blazing the 40 and showing off exactly why a lot of people feel so confident that this guy's going to come in and be a really big playmaker in his rookie campaign and moving forward. So, gonna have to wait on that. Gonna have to wait for the 40 time. Gonna have to wait for all of the numbers on Corey Coleman until his pro day down the road, whenever that is. Of course, I'll keep you up to date on all those things here on the In the Lab Room podcast. So, just another little bit of rain on what has been thus far a very sunny combine outlook. All the quarterbacks are throwing this year, and we don't get that very often. Normally there's one or two guys, I'm not going to throw at the combine, I'm going to wait till my pro day. We don't have that this year. All the major top quarterbacks that we care about, that we know about, they're going to throw at the combine. That's a good sign. Come out, spin it. Look, we don't care if you incomplete a pass. We don't care if you don't have timing with these receivers. We understand that. We're not going to charge it to your account. You don't have to worry about that. Okay? Just come out, spin it. You know how to throw a 12-yard dig route. You know how to throw the fade route. You know how to throw a 9-ball down the field. Go ahead, spin it. That's all we want to see. We just want to see you rip it. So, I'm glad to hear that no one's running away from the spotlight. No one's shying away from the competition of being around your peers and showing that you can throw better than the next guy. I love it. That's what I want to see. I want more of it. And so it's good to know that this combine is going to be filled with guys that we're going to see play on Sunday, and not just a camp arm or a combine arm out there flinging it around. Going to be guys just like last year with Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. That made it more exciting to see the receivers run routes, knowing that they were getting footballs from guys that were going to be drafted early on, and you could see them throwing the football. And we made it a lot about them last year, and that was kind of fun to see as well. So I'm looking forward to that this year with the combine, knowing that all of the top quarterbacks are going to throw at this year's combine. So those are your draft rumor mills. That's me dropping a little gem on your melon today. Let's jump into the 7-on-7 drill for today. And yesterday we talked about the top 7 guys that need to nail the interviews at the combine. Well, today we're going to talk about the top 7 guys that need to clear the medical red flags at the combine. I talked about this yesterday, and I thought I was going to get to address this yesterday on the podcast, but we ran so long yesterday that I decided to just keep it to one topic. But it's not just on the field exploits at the combine. You got to go through the interview process, as quirky as it may be. You may hear some of the funkiest questions. And I saw a couple of tweets from Austin Lane yesterday, an ex-defensive end that played in the league. He was at the combine in 2010, and he posted some of the weirdest questions that they asked him at the combine, which is hysterical because every year we get bits and pieces about just how crazy and quirky the actual interview process is at the combine. And literally, if you go check his Twitter page out, Austin Lane, ex-Jacksonville Jaguars defensive end, you'll see some of the questions that he posted, and he had little GIFs with facial expressions as to how he looked when they asked him these questions. And they asked him, if you could murder someone and get away with it, would you? I mean, what kind of a question is that? They asked him, if you did murder someone, how would you do it? Really? I mean, what are you doing? What are we talking about here? They asked him, boxers or briefs? I mean, these are NFL evaluators and scouts and GMs and guys in positions of importance asking him these kinds of non sequitur questions. Look, that's the combine in a nutshell. We'll never actually know what goes on behind closed doors, but it's fun to get a little bit of insight as to what does go down. But you've got to do the interviews, you've got to clear the medical, and then you get on the field. And sometimes we lose sight of the fact that medical is just as important as the on-the-field drills. And every year we have a couple of guys that we think are going to be able to go at the combine, and then they can't. They're not cleared medically to hit the field. And I remember a couple of years ago, it was D Ford that couldn't go. And he was a little upset because he wanted to go out there and really show off what he was capable of. And, all the talk that year was about Jadeveon Clowney, and he wanted to kind of quiet some of that with some of his own exploits on the field, and he wasn't able to do it. And every year we get guys like that can't come out and perform because they're not healthy enough and they don't get cleared by the medical staff. So, in terms of being drafted, though, draft stock is definitely impacted by your health. Teams are scared away by medical red flags sometimes, and a guy that might have been very high on a team's board but doesn't check out medically could be affected. And so this is a big part of the combine, and guys that we've watched throughout their collegiate careers be very productive and good football players that we think very highly of could slide in the draft because they don't clear some of these medical red flags at the combine. So let's talk about 7 guys, the top 7 guys that need to clear the medical red flags at the combine. Start at number 7, Scooby Wright. Remember 2014 and just how disruptive and productive a football player Scooby Wright was for the Arizona Wildcats? I mean, this guy was all over the field at the linebacker position, and I thought there was no way this guy wasn't going to be a top 15 pick if he were to come out, in 2015, if he continued to play the way that he played in 2014. And to see him beset by injuries in 2015, only play in 3 games after that dynamic 2014 campaign was frustrating. He had a bunch of knee and foot injuries that derailed his 2015 season, was able to come back and play in the bowl game and actually played really well. So I think people feel really good about where he is, but he's still going to have to check out medically. They're going to want to know how is everything going with the knee and the foot and all of those things to make sure that he's a guy you can spend a top tier pick on and feel good about your investment, because linebacker is one of those positions you gotta be physically in shape. You gotta be well put together because it's a physically demanding position. Just about every position in football is a physically demanding position, but linebacker, much like running back, just about on every single play you're making some kind of physical contact with someone. And so Scooby Wright is a guy that needs to check out medically in order to see his draft stock rise, because we know he's a talented football player. You go to number 6 on the top 7 guys that need to clear the medical red flags at the combine. This is a guy that I was extremely disappointed in 2015, and it really wasn't much of his doing. This is a guy that we've held in high regard since setting foot on the campus of Virginia Tech, and I was expecting big things from him in 2015, and he never really got a chance to show off his talents in 2015. I'm talking about Virginia Tech cornerback Kendall Fuller. He tore his meniscus in his right knee during the preseason, and really there's no preseason in college football. He did it in the camps leading up to the season, and he never was really the same. And he tried to gut it out. He tried to go, and then he realized, I can't do this, and I'm out here putting bad tape. And just go to the first game of the season versus Ohio State, and he's getting torched left and right. And that's not Kendall Fuller, okay? So I knew something had to be up because he was getting worked. And not to say that Ohio State doesn't have good enough receivers that can't beat him. I mean, Michael Thomas, not talking about chopped liver there. We're not talking about mincemeat with, Braxton Miller. These are guys that are highly talented, uber talented wide receivers, but Kendall Fuller is no cube steak himself. So I was expecting him to be able to hold his own a little bit better against Ohio State, and he just wasn't physically capable of doing so. And you can see he was laboring, and he finally decided to shut it down and had season-ending surgery. So he won't be able to do any on-the-field drills at the combine. Probably going to have to wait until his pro day. Hopefully he's ready to go then. He's going to have to check out medically, however, at the combine. They're going to have to make sure he's coming along well enough so that teams know, hey, this is a guy that, although we didn't see a lot of the things that we saw in the past from him in 2015, he's still a extremely talented cornerback that is long and can offer some things. And if he's healthy, he's a guy that I think could rise up some draft boards, because again, this is a talented football player, and I think we would have been talking about him in the discussion with the Mackenzie Alexanders and the Jalen Ramseys of the world and the Vernon Hargrave IIIs of the world. Had he been healthy this year, he would have been one of those top corners coming out in this draft class, and still may be after it's all said and done if he's medically cleared and he goes out and performs well at his pro day. So you go to number 5 on the list of the top 7 guys that need to clear the medical red flags at the combine. This is a guy that is very intriguing because at a position that it seems like every year is lacking, that in this league we don't have enough of. You want guys like this to be healthy and ready to rock and roll, and I think he could be an impact player day one. He's a physical, hard-hitting safety, but yet he can still make plays on the football. And in this day and age in the NFL where safeties need to be interchangeable, be able to drop the hammer down in the box, but also be able to range and make plays on the football, this guy fits that to a T. I'm talking about West Virginia safety Karl Joseph. He's a guy that suffered a non-contact knee injury in October, tore his ACL in practice. And those are the type of injuries you hate, the non-contact injuries, because you know something is catastrophically wrong. Something's torn, it's going to require surgery, and it's going to require a very long, lengthy process back to the field. So his rehabilitation has been going well, but again, it happened in October. He's not going to be ready to do anything of any kind right now, and so you're hoping he's ready to perform at his pro day, but that's highly unlikely, and so you just don't know how that's going to impact Karl Joseph's draft stock, because this is a really talented safety, probably the best safety in this draft class when it's all said and done. You know, from an athletic standpoint, from a putting his body on the line standpoint, physicality, but also making plays. When he went down with his injury, he was leading the nation in interceptions. So Karl Joseph is a ball player as a safety, but going to have to check out at the combine. They're going to want to know his status, where he is in his rehabilitation process. And if they like what they hear, they know what they see on tape with this guy, I wouldn't be surprised if a team takes a flyer on Karl Joseph in this draft relatively early if they like what they hear from the doctors and he checks out medically at the combine. Number 4 on the list of the top 7 guys that need to clear the medical red flags at the combine. To hear the rest of this podcast and more, go to the website louietnetwork.com, or you can find this podcast and more on iTunes or Stitcher. That's louietnetwork.com or on iTunes and Stitcher.